Hey, I'm Jeremy and welcome to the channel. Here I focus on vegan, plant-based comfort food. Generally things that are good for you but don't feel like they're healthy or boring. Carrot, blueberry, banana, ferret, me, my, moment. Any recipe that I've written up on my website I will include below, and even some that I haven't, I'll put down below for you because I'm that kind of a nice guy. And this is what I eat in a week. Kind of. I can do something a little bit different. I'm not going to show you every single meal I eat throughout the week, but what I'm going to show you is meals that you can make really, really quick.
We're pigs.
She's not wrong, but it's not nice. I'm going to throw in some breakfasts as well, but lunches I'm pretty much skipping because I usually just eat leftovers. You can either watch this video straight through or check out the description below where you're going to see the chapters and you can click on the recipes that you want to see as you want to see them. Bookmark this and come back whenever you need to. But before we get started, if you enjoy this video at any point in time, don't be shy about hitting that like button. Let me know in the comments below if any of these recipes look good for you. I will write you back. I'm really, really good about that. And of course, if you like this content, subscribe to get more of it. Without further ado, let's see what I ate this week. So for dinner tonight, my family wanted a lasagna. So all I really did was chop up a selection of vegetables that we had in the fridge. Here we've got some carrots and zucchini and cauliflower. You could throw in mushrooms or red onions in here if you got them, pretty much whatever you want. We roasted them for about 20 minutes or so, just until they were softened a little bit. I made a quick tofu ricotta. The recipe is on my website. I put it in the link below. This legitimately comes together in mere minutes. You can basically make this while your pasta water is boiling and cooking, if that's what you're using it for. For tomato sauce, I just softened some garlics and onions in a pan and then added some jarred tomato sauce to make a sauce. For this lasagna, we're using gluten-free noodles, so we didn't actually have to cook any for this. These don't need to be pre-cooked. You just layer them in and they cook while the lasagna is cooking. If you don't have these, that's totally fine. Just cook whatever noodles you're using, whole wheat, gluten-free. Just listen to the package directions. This is just like any other lasagna where you layer everything. So a little bit of sauce on the bottom so your noodles don't stick and burn to your lasagna pan. And then you put on some noodles, a little more sauce, veggies, tofu ricotta, and then repeat. And then top with a final layer of noodles and sauce. And then for the most of this, I just put on this grateable dyed cheddar cheese. And then I used some real cheese for the part that our kids are gonna eat. I gotta say, this dyed cheese has come a long way in the last few years, and I'm pretty impressed with it. My lovely wife made a quick little side salad to go along with this. This morning was a pretty typical breakfast for me. I made what I call a Faux-Gurt. The recipe is in the link below. It is packed with protein and works beautifully like a yogurt with fruit. I use banana for the base here, but as you can see on my website, I have a whole bunch of options you can use to make this. So for this breakfast, I basically have a big fruit salad, the Faux-Gurt, and then I topped it with my homemade granola. I've got both the granola recipe and a video on how I make it below. I have always got a bunch of this sitting around for breakfast or quick snacking. You can make triple or double batches of this because it's pretty shelf stable. I made dinner and dessert at the same time just to maximize the kitchen time today. So for dinner, I wanted to make a Mexican loaded baked potato, so I started off with cooking the lentils. I did them in an instant pot, and for that, it's 1 cup of lentils plus 1.5 cups of liquid. So you can just use water, but I decided to use vegetable broth because it adds a little extra flavor. And because I was going Mexican, I added some chili powder, cumin, and garlic powder just to give the lentils a little extra kick. In the Instant Pot, you can cook them for 9 minutes. If you do this on the stovetop, just go until the liquid is absorbed and the lentils are soft. You might need a little bit of extra liquid to start. For the baked potatoes, I just did them in an air fryer, but you can use an oven. Make sure you poke holes with a fork around them so they don't explode on you. If you're not avoiding oil, you can rub a little bit over the skin and it makes it a bit crispier. I baked these at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 40 minutes, flipping them halfway. Cook them for longer if you like a really crunchy skin, or if you find that they're still hard in the center. So while all of those things were cooking, I made some apple fritters. This was a combination of oat flour, coconut sugar, baking powder, cinnamon, and salt for the dry ingredients. For the wet ingredients, I used plant milk, unsweetened applesauce, lemon juice, and vanilla. I don't actually have this recipe on my website, so I'm gonna add all the information and the increments down below. You are welcome. Mix the wet and dry ingredients together. And then I added some chopped up apple and folded them in and then put them into donut molds. If you don't have these, muffin molds will work just as well. I baked these at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 25 minutes. If you want to make them extra treaty, you can melt some plant-based margarine or butter or aquafaba if you're trying to be a little healthier. Mix that with some coconut sugar and cinnamon, and then you can just kind of dab them inside of it to put a nice little topping on top. For the rest of our dinner, I chopped up an onion, some garlic, pepper, and some kale, and I sauteed them in a frying pan. And then I added those Mexican lentils with some salsa and nutritional yeast. These are great just like this, but I added some sauces that I already had in the fridge. This is a cheese sauce that I made earlier in the week, as well as a vegan sour cream. I'll be making this sour cream again later on in this video, so stick around for that. For breakfast, I made an oat bake. I didn't shoot this, unfortunately, but the recipe is below, and I'm also going to make this later on in the week, so I will have that in the video. Stick around for that. So for dinner, I'm making what's called what's left in the fridge soup. Let's get rid of the ugly bits of you. I'm gonna make a little bowl of scraps, so it's really easy to throw them all into my broth bag. I don't know if this will be any good. I'm kind of making a soup up by thinking here. For soup, I kind of just go with a couple cups of vegetables, whatever variety you got, some kind of a starch. Probably end up being a stew because I'm gonna throw lots. Some of these are getting sad. Sad vegetables want to go into soups. When your celery gets rubbery like this, it wants to go inside of a soup. Just be careful when using a mandolin. Don't cut your fingers. Let's do carrots. Carrot, carrot, boberret, banana, fana, faux ferret, me, my, moment. Carrot. A loose chop on a pepper, potatoes around here somewhere. This is gonna be so full, it's gonna be great. And then an onion, obviously. I don't mind cutting off big hunks of my onion because those are gonna go into my broth bag. Broth, a couple capfuls of tamari. And then we're gonna add a bunch of seasonings to this too. Rosemary, thyme, poultry seasoning, and then we'll also just throw in this like all-purpose kind of no salt seasoning. Soup is never the same twice. And then we're just gonna set this to cook for like, I don't know, 12 minutes is all it really takes. Once it was done, I let it sit for a bit and then added some kale to let it wilt. Super easy way to make soup. This makes anywhere from 6 to 8 portions depending on how much liquid you put inside of it. For dinner tonight, we made a stir fry, which is another quick and awesome meal. The sauce recipe is in the description below, but it's essentially rice wine vinegar, tamari or soy sauce, peanut butter, maple syrup, garlic powder, ground ginger, chili powder, or chili flakes. My wife cut up a bunch of veggies. This looks like bok choy, carrots, broccoli, mushrooms, cabbage, and snow peas. Do we have enough veggies for our stir fry?
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to clean up.
That's not a yes or a no.
People don't want to see this disaster.
Yes, they do. The people want to know that we live like regular human beings whose lives are disasters.
We're pigs.
That's not nice. She's not wrong, but it's not nice. If you've got a wok, use that. Otherwise, saute them in as big ass of a frying pan you've got until they've just softened up a bit. You still want them to have a little bit of a bite and crunch to them. Once they've cooked a little bit, I add about a half of the sauce and then mix that around so it's coated all of the vegetables. Then we added some tofu that we simply cubed and baked for about 20 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't do this part, don't drop it in. And then some rice noodles that we cooked according to the package direction. You could also use rice here. And then we poured on the rest of the sauce and mixed it around. Just make sure everything is nicely coated. We topped these with some cashews, but you could use peanuts or any other nuts that you enjoy. This is super easy, simple, and delicious. We eat a lot of stir fry because it's super tasty and super quick. So this morning I made my oat bake again. This time you get to see how I did it. The link to the recipe is below, but I have blended together a banana with some oats, flaxseed, cinnamon, protein powder, and then some unsweetened almond milk, and blended that until it's a really thick mixture. We're gonna cut up some fruit and then stir that all together with some nuts and dried fruit. I'm baking this in an air fryer at 325 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes, but you could put this in an oven for 25 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit.
It's such a delicious, amazing, simple idea for a breakfast. It's oat bake. It's like satisfying and warm and soft and all the things. Seriously, if you've never made one of these things, give it a go. If you don't have an air fryer, you can easily do it in an oven. And then you wash it down with a warm beverage of your choice.
I had some pumpkin in the fridge, so I decided to make pumpkin bread for a treat. The recipe is in the description below, but this is very similar to a banana bread loaf or just a regular muffin recipe, the main difference being that we're using pumpkin. I love pumpkin because it has a great flavor, but it's also kind of a superfood. It's got a crazy amount of vitamin A, solid amounts of vitamin C, potassium, iron, copper, manganese, B2, and vitamin E. And because we didn't want to be like crazy super healthy, we topped this with some pumpkin seeds and chocolate chips to balance out all that healthy stuff. I forgot to video what this actually looks like after it's baked, but here are some photos for your enjoyment. We decided to make tacos tonight, so I went with a really quick Pico de Gallo mixture. This is some red onions, jalapenos. Make sure you get those seeds out and don't touch your friggin' eyes. I'm speaking from experience here. Chop up some tomatoes, fresh basil, and sea salt. Then we added in some cumin, lime zest, and lime juice. Just mix that all together and then toss it in the fridge for as long as you can to let those flavors marinate, chill out, and get all awesome. Next, I made the world's fastest refried beans just by mixing up some kidney beans, salsa, cumin, and chili powder inside of my food processor. If you like it spicier, add more chili powder or even throw some jalapenos into this. I made a super quick guac literally just by blending together a ripe avocado with some lime juice. It's honestly the laziest guacamole you could make. Normally I would add at least some garlic powder to this, but I didn't seem to do that today. Lastly, I made that quick vegan sour cream that I mentioned earlier on in the video. This is basically just soft or silken tofu. It's about a half of a pack mixed with a tablespoon of both lemon juice, red wine vinegar, a dash of sea salt, and a couple cracks of black pepper. Then we just warmed up some corn tortillas and topped them with all these sauces. I threw on some olives and shredded cabbage and carrots as well. Then I just warmed up some corn tortillas. You could make these into burritos if you wanted to, or you could just make a taco bowl with some lettuce and whatnot as well. I just topped these with all the different sauces I made, threw on some olives and some shredded cabbage and carrots as well. The beauty of these quick sauces I made here is that you can make them in bulk and keep them for at least a week in your fridge for quick meals or lunches or snacks. They store really, really well. For breakfast, I still had some pumpkin to use up, so I decided to make a pumpkin smoothie bowl. Smoothie bowls are all about getting the right texture. So often they're way too liquidy. I like them basically almost like soft serve. So I've added just a little bit of unsweetened almond milk, chia seeds, cinnamon, kale, protein powder, and I froze the pumpkin in little chunks because I knew I wanted to make a smoothie bowl out of it. And then I added some frozen banana to bulk it out. I topped that with some blueberries, hemp seeds, and my granola. Recipe is in the link below, like I already mentioned earlier on. My wife made dinner tonight, so I didn't get to tape the process, but she took some tempeh, ground it up, and fried it with some onions, mushrooms, and then tossed in some tomato sauce. She cooked some pasta and broccoli, and then we just topped it with nutritional yeast. Boom! Really easy pasta recipe. This came together in less than 20 minutes. For breakfast this morning, I made my custard toast. The recipe is in the link below. I used the rest of that package of silken tofu that I made to make the sour cream. It's about 150 grams or so. I added a little bit of tapioca starch, and I'd normally put some protein powder in here, but today I decided to go with some nut butter. All you gotta do is blend it together and then slather it over 2 pieces of bread. Here I've got my own homemade sourdough. You can top it with fruit or whatever else you want. Here I've got bananas, raspberries, and some chocolate-covered quinoa. I air fry this at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 4 to 5 minutes, but you can cook yours in the oven. Use around the same guidelines, just get it out when things are starting to brown a little bit. While that was happening, I made a half-assed pumpkin spice latte by mixing together a couple tablespoons of pure pumpkin, a little maple syrup, and some pumpkin spice. I added some coffee and whisked it together and topped it with some steamed milk. By that point, my custard toast was ready to go, and it was delicious as hell. So that is a full week of eating in our house. If you think you'll make any of these recipes, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, if you got to the end, don't forget to hit that like button and also subscribe for more videos like this. Speaking of which, YouTube thinks you like this one. Thanks!